Hi, welcome back to another video. During hip internal rotation, your femur or thigh bone rotates in or towards the midline. Well, you might not think about performing hip internal rotation exercises much, but it is an important aspect of injury prevention, especially if you play sports that require running and cutting, like soccer or basketball. If your hip is lacking the internal rotation range to cut optimally, all the force of the movement will go through your knees, while your hips and your feet and ankles are designed to take on big rotational forces. Your knees are not. So when these excessive rotational forces go through the knee, you can end up with some nasty injuries like torn ACL, PCLs, and meniscus. Insufficient hip internal rotation can lead to gait issues. This is because hip internal rotation is necessary for almost everything we do in human movement in an upright manner. Notice here how we're constantly transitioning between external and internal rotation with every step we take. Just imagine that you didn't have the ability to raise your arm overhead without pain. In order to get your arm above your head, you might side bend your trunk or hyperextend your back to compensate for a lack of mobility that should be there in the first place. This is similar to a lack of hip internal rotation, starting with your knees or the soles of your feet caving inwards. As a result of this, you will compensate into an anterior pelvic tilt. So besides prolonged sitting with a tight hip flexors, lack of hip internal rotation is a common cause of anterior pelvic tilt. This is because if we don't have that internal rotation, we will take the path of least resistance to find it, resulting in an anterior pelvic tilt. So watch till the end of this video and I will share with you the solution to this problem. If you like this video and find this useful, please click the like button. Please leave your comments below and share this video. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of my future weekly video release. Please also subscribe to this channel. This is completely free of charge, but will help the channel to grow. Thank you. So, the simplest solution would be to provide genuine hip internal rotation. This is because if we have adequate hip internal rotation, not only will our hip feel looser, but we will also not give our body a reason to compensate into anterior pelvic tilt in the first place, but also help to fix your anterior pelvic tilt. Let's see how we can achieve this. First off, you need to know if you have a lack of internal rotation. Let's take a test. Well, sign of mobility loss with age is trouble putting shoes and socks on. Now, this is a really common problem, and what it signifies to me is that your hip is lacking mobility, and one of the key things that your hip is probably lacking is rotation. And we can test it from a sitting position, one leg at a time. Keeping our knees level, we're going to turn our legs in like this. I reckon I probably have 30 degrees of internal rotation with my leg. When I go the other way, external rotation, I reckon I probably have 60 degrees. So I have a total of 90 degrees of hip rotation on my right side. And what we should be aiming for is 90 degrees. That is a healthy hip. But we lose our range of hip rotation as we age. And if you have less than 70 degrees of rotation in your hips, you definitely should be working on your hip range of motion, because that rotation loss does tend to get worse with age. Now, before we take a look at the corrective exercises to improve your hip internal rotation, let's first take a look at anatomy. So what exactly is hip internal rotation? Well, a lot of people think hip internal rotation is just the internal rotation of the femur, but this is just femoral internal rotation. What happens high up at the pelvis is that the hip bone actually moves very slightly too. We need this movement for a wide variety of activities that we do daily, as I've mentioned earlier in this video. Internally rotating your hip engages muscles like the tensor fasciae latae, upper glute muscles like the glute medius and the glute minimus, and inner thigh muscles like the adductors. There is no single muscle that allows your hip to rotate inward. Instead, all the above muscles work together to generate internal rotation. Without it, it is hard to complete daily activities like putting on your pants or stepping into a bathtub. Furthermore, you use your hip internal rotators to walk, run, squat, or crawl. You also use them when you put your weight on one foot and rotate your pelvis. Exercises can help you to develop strong hip internal rotators. Stretches improve flexibility and range of motion in the muscles that rotate the hip inwards. Some hip internal rotation exercises and stretches can put pressure on your knees. If you feel pain in your knee at any time, you should stop. First, we train both our hip internal and external rotation with the hip axial rotation exercise. And we're going to do this in 3 positions: low, medium, and high. All you're going to do is to put your knee in the wall. Now, you don't really have to lean into the wall. Just place the knee on the wall with a mat if you prefer. Now raise your leg to a low position that is about 45 degrees. Keep your knees at 90-degree angle. Now internally rotate your hip by twisting the top of your raised thigh towards the midline. Hold this position for 5 to 10 seconds. Now externally rotate your hip by twisting the top of your thigh away from your midline. And hold this position again for 5 to 10 seconds. Now repeat the same exercise, this time raised to midsection, 70 degrees. First, internally rotate your hip and hold this position for 5 to 10 seconds. And then externally rotate your hip and hold this for another 5 to 10 seconds. Now repeat the same exercise at a high position at 90 degrees. First, internally rotate your hip and hold for 5 to 10 seconds. And externally rotate your hip and hold for 5 to 10 seconds. Don't hike the hip here, they should be level. And think about sucking the thigh bone into the pelvis. That will help you to get a better range of motion and better and more aligned movement. The key here is to try to get deeper into the range. Keep activating those muscles, keep sucking the thigh into the pelvis, and that is how you build strength. And don't really worry about how much your foot moves out. It is the feeling of the right muscles and not hiking the hip too much. So this is a great exercise for waking up the hip internal and external rotators and start restoring their strength and their range of motion. This next exercise is a modification of the basic 1990 exercise that you might have seen before. A lot of people perform this rotation, switching back and forth. That's okay, but we're trying to improve this by targeting the muscle to build strength and get a clean movement pattern. Well, to get into a 1990 position, you will need to sit on the ground and twist your legs. Both knees should be at 90-degree angle, and your thighs should also be at roughly 90-degree angle. You can put a hand behind you to support yourself. And you may have trouble getting into this starting position, or you may feel some cramping or some discomfort when you do this exercise. And that is because the muscles involved are at a shortened range of motion and they don't know how to work properly. So we just have to work them and teach them how they should function in this range of motion. So from this 1990 position, drive your back ankle towards the ceiling, rotating from the thigh. Hold this position for 10 seconds and slowly return the foot to the ground. Perform 2 sets on each side with 3 to 6 repetitions. Remember to suck the thigh into your pelvis. For each repetition, try to get deeper into the range and keep breathing naturally. If you feel pain in the knee while attempting this exercise, then you are learning exactly why improving your hip internal rotation is important. First of all, stop the exercise, and then be sure that you're connecting with the deep muscles of your hip and generating the movements from the hip. Start slowly and build your intensity over time. And the third and final exercise in this video is a closed chain exercise. All you do is to stand on the ground and internally rotate the body over the support leg. You can use a cable machine or resistance band for this exercise, with the band or cable at slightly above hip level. Standing with your feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, plus a small partial squat. Your spine should be nice and tall as always. Start activating the internal rotators on this hip on the far side of the band anchor. Now use the internal rotators to pivot your entire body around the anchored foot. Hold this position for 5 seconds and then slowly return to the start position. Perform 2 to 3 sets of 4 to 6 repetitions. And then repeat the same on the other side. So your hips are vital for ensuring your body is mobile, flexible and athletic. So much of daily life relies on proper function of hip mobility, and that a damaged hip will drastically reduce your quality of life and increase injury risk. This is especially true as we get older. As true with all injuries, it is significantly easier to maintain a healthy body than it is to repair a broken one. Until next week, take care. Thank you for watching until the end. If you like this video, please click the like button. Please leave your comments below and share this video. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of my future weekly video release. Please also subscribe to this channel. This is free of charge but will help the channel to grow. If you're interested in improving your health and fitness or losing weight, if you suffer from or wish to prevent back pain, please take a look at my book, which is now available from Amazon worldwide. Thank you.